Right. Sorry about that. Frog in my throat. Evening, everyone. I'm going to try and speak a little bit louder because the kids should be asleep. I've been to take the dog for a walk, so they should be properly asleep by now. So we'll carry on with kind donations from various lovely people out there on the interwebs. So tonight I'm going to do two tonight, just to try and catch up because I've had a couple of nights off. So tonight, the first one that I'm going to be having is from Chris and Lindsay Cook. Here's Chris's picture again, just because it embarrasses him, I believe. This particular one, which is attractively packaged in a squeezy soap type thing, and a jam label on it apparently as well, is Milford. Now this is actually from New Zealand, and I'd forgotten that they provided this when I was doing my little world tour, so I should have actually had this earlier on in the week. So yeah, New Zealand, very unusual. It's the main distillery on New Zealand is no more. It was actually dismantled in 1998, and the stills that we used to make the whiskey were shipped off to Fiji to produce rum. But it opened in 1968 by a company called Preston's, who originally called it Wilson's Distillery when they first launched their whiskies in 1973, 1974. It was called Wilson's Distillery. When it closed, it was bought by a company called the New Zealand Malt Whisky Company, which has now been shortened to the New Zealand Whisky Collection. They basically bought all the remaining stocks once the distillery had been dismantled. Now it's in Dunedin on the south coast, and I'll put a map up of where it is now. And it has been, you can find it in various forms. Obviously now that it's gone, stocks are getting harder and harder to get hold of, but it basically comes under a number of different names. It has been marketed as Milford, which is this one. There's also some bottlings where it's been called Willowbank or Dunedin. Wilson's itself has been released as a blended whiskey, and there's another one called Lamalore, which was a sort of heavily peated version, or don't quite know if it was sort of heavily Lafroigy, Ardbeggy type levels, but it was a peated version. So difficult to get hold of, not cheap to get hold of. Milford, the Milford range used to look like this. Now I actually have a bottle as well of the New Zealand collection. I've called it a double wood, from the Dunedin distillery. Now, as tempted as I am to have it after this, because that's a 15-year-old, technically it's from the same distillery, so right now I'm reluctant to do a double header with this. If I get desperate and I'm running out of whiskey, then I'll go back to it, maybe save some of this, just to do a direct comparison. But so, obviously difficult to get hold of, very kindly donated by Chris and Lindsay. Now, New Zealand as a country isn't too dissimilar to Scotland in terms of some of the geography that's there, and some of the landscapes is quite similar, very mountainous, very green, pretty crazy weather. It's not ridiculously hot. It is still hot, but it's still got sun climates because of the mountainous regions that are there. So it's not massively dissimilar to Scotland in terms of kind of in terms of wine you'd call terroir, in terms of the landscape and the nature that's there, is fairly similar. So it's actually a decent country for distilling and making whiskey. Really nice and soft, really sherried. Maybe not sherried as such, but there's definite sherry influence in there, and there's a lovely sweetness to it. A really nice sort of rich toffee apple feel to it. Very nice. 43%, so slightly higher alcohol percentage. A little bit of a burn on there, a little bit of oakiness, so it's just sort of drying everything out. The richness is there, but there's not a great deal of depth to it. It's decent. It's what I'd call a classic young Speyside whiskey in terms of it's got fruitiness there, but there is this this woodiness. It's not even oakiness, it's a woodiness to it that just dries everything out. There's not a huge amount on the finish. It's okay. My thick throat's probably not helping matters as well. That wasn't an alcoholic burn that was stopping me from speaking. That was kind of a gunk of something stuck there. It's okay. It's not too bad. It's got a nice richness to it. It's not hugely mouth-filling, and that oakiness is yeah, it's quite drying just a little bit too much. It's a shame it's just a little bit too dry. You certainly wouldn't want to drink an awful lot of this because it's sucking all the moisture out of my mouth. It reminds me a little bit of that Yamazaki 12, where not the Yamazaki 12, the Amrit, where it was kind of sucking all the moisture out of your mouth. It's okay, you know, it's not a bad whiskey by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not continually enjoyable to drink, which is a shame because it's, you know, rare, difficult to get hold of. But I'm going to save the rest of that, and then if I do get round to doing the other New Zealand, I'll do a double header and see how it compares. So, you know, we'll have a quick wash out and a quick rinse, and then we'll get on to the next one.